Part 4 here, let's check our quick check answer. Again, you should try and do these on your own and then check them. Of course, your answer may be a little different depending on which angle you use. I got to take a peek here. Okay, I used the 37-degree angle. So I'm going to label them with respect to this angle. If you did the 53, that's okay. You can still check your final answer, and then if you have any questions, let me know. With respect to the 37-degree angle, I have my hypotenuse is here. The side opposite this angle is over here, so here's our opposite, and here must be the adjacent A. Now I figure out which two sides I'm going to use in my equation. Well, of course, I got to solve for x, so I'm going to use this adjacent side, and I know the hypotenuse, not the opposite, so I'm going to use that. Which trig function uses those two is cosine. Uses adjacent and hypotenuse. And cosine of the angle, don't forget the angle, 37 degrees, equals the ratio or the fraction, which is adjacent over hypotenuse. So we still have x on top of these. So my equation looks like this. If you use the other angle, then you're going to get a different trig function. Okay, you're probably going to get what? Sine of 53 degrees equals x over 13. Okay, but you'll see if you did everything right and use that angle, you'll get the same final answer. Okay, so there's two possible equations. So now what do? We put it over 1 here. Cross multiply 1 times x, which is just x, equals 13 times the cosine of 37, written like that. Make sure you keep putting that number in front. That's multiplied times the cosine of 37. We're ready to put it into our calculator. And what do we get here? 13, whoops, let me turn it on, times the cosine of 37. Rounded to the nearest tenth, I get 10.4. You know, there's a 3 there, but the next number is an 8, so I have to round this up to 4, 10.4. And there we go. If you have any questions, let me know. Let's go on to another example. In this example, we're solving for both of these sides, so you got to do it one at a time. So again, you're going to be writing about these steps, so I keep saying them over and over again. What's the first step? Choose the angle you're going to use. I'm using this 54. Label the sides with respect to this angle. All right, so let's do that. Over here is the hypotenuse. Opposite this 54-degree angle is this y side, so I'll put an O over here for opposite. That makes this 8 side the adjacent A. Now, I'm going to solve for x first, so I'm going to use this side, the hypotenuse, and one I know, which is this adjacent side. So adjacent and hypotenuse is cosine. Cosine of the angle, 54 degrees, equals what? The side adjacent, which is 8, over the hypotenuse, which is x. So in this example now, notice we've got x on the bottom. You'll see what happens with this, okay? So pay attention, this is a little different. We still start off by making this into a fraction, so we have our proportion here and cross multiply. Now x is in times of 1. I always start with the x. I like to, x is times the cosine of 54 degrees. So again, whenever you multiply something times a trig function, you put it in front. X times the cosine of 54. You realize this is multiplication. X times whatever this number, the cosine of 54 degrees is, this little tiny number, little decimal number. All right, equals the other cross product, which is 1 times 8, which is 8. Now, since this is multiplication, to get x by itself, I'm going to divide away this cosine of 54. So on paper, it looks like this, and you should write it down. We're dividing both sides of the equation by the cosine of 54. What happens is it cancels out this one. And we get x all by itself over here. What does x equal? It equals now not 8 times the cosine of 54, but 8 divided by the cosine of 54 degrees. So we just plug that into the calculator now. If you have any questions, let me know. So 8 and then divided by the cosine of 54 degrees. And hit enter, and what do we get? I got 13.6 and then a 1, so I'm going to leave that as 6. 13.6 rounded to the nearest tenth. Okay. So again, our original equation was this: cosine of 54 equals 8 over x. And our answer rounded to the nearest tenth was 13.6. Now, if you want to try this on your own, you can pause this video right now and then check your answer in a second. We're going to solve for y next. That would be good practice. Okay. So I'm going to erase some of this stuff and get it out of the way. If you want to pause it and see how far you can get on your own, that would be very good practice for you. All right. Hopefully you pause it for a minute and see how far you can get setting up an equation for y. Let's take a look. Again, we're using this 54-degree angle. Here's our hypotenuse. The y side is opposite that 54-degree angle. This was our adjacent side. We're solving for y, so we're going to use this side. And even though we've solved for x over here, it's an approximation. I'm going to use this 8 side here, which is exact. Okay? So we got y because we want to know what it is, and this 8 side because it's exactly 8. Now we've got opposite and adjacent. The trig function that uses opposite and adjacent is tangent. So we have the tangent of 54 degrees. Tangent equals opposite, which is our y, over adjacent, which is 8. And we're ready to solve it. We put this over 1. Now this time our y is times the 1, so y times 1 is 1, equals 8 times the tangent of 54 degrees. And you're ready to put that in. It's solved for y. We do not have to divide anything away because y is all by itself. And this one, x, was times the cosine of 54. This one, since y was on top, it is isolated over here. So we pick up our calculator, put in 8 times the tangent of 54 degrees. And I get 11.0 and then a 1, so since that next number is a 1, we're going to leave it at 11.0. Okay? So again, the equation was tangent of 54 equals y over 8, and we ended up with 11.0. I believe that's it. No, we got a quick check, huh? All right. So you might want to pause the video now, try the quick check, see how far you can get on your own, and check your answers. Okay? Hopefully you did pause that video instead of just copying from me. If you didn't, try it. Try it. Pause it right now. It's good practice because when on the quiz, I'm not going to help you. Tess, I'm not going to help you. All right. I'll go over this answer now. So first I'm going to solve for x. Let's see. Choose the angle first. I'm going to use this 25-degree angle. Label the sides. Here's the hypotenuse with respect to this angle. This is the opposite. This is adjacent. Now choose the two sides I'm going to use. Well, I'm going to solve for x first, so I got to use x. And one I know, this opposite side. So we got opposite and adjacent. Which trig function is that? Tangent. So we have tangent of the angle we're using, 25 degrees. That's the one we marked. Equals the opposite side, which is 10, over the adjacent, which is x. So there's our equation for this x one. Now we put it over 1 and cross multiply. Now the x is times the tangent, this time not times the 1. So put the x first, tangent of 25 degrees, equals the other cross product is 1 times 10, which is 10. So now to get x by itself, we got to get rid of this tangent of 25. Since it's a multiplication, we divide by the tangent of 25 degrees. That cancels out this part of the multiplication. So now we have x by itself. We canceled out the tangent, and we're ready to put this into the calculator. Remember, this is 10 divided by the tangent of 25 degrees, which should round to 21.4. Now we're ready to set up an equation for y. So we're using the same angle, the sides are labeled the same way, but which two sides will we use? I think I'll mark these in blue this time or something here. So we got to use the y side because that's what we're solving for. And I'm going to go ahead and use this side, even though I know approximately what this other side is. I'm going to use this one because it's exactly 10. It's the exact amount. So now we're using opposite and hypotenuse. That is sine of the angle, the 25 we had marked here, equals the opposite, which is 10, over the hypotenuse, which is the y we're looking for. So again, we got the variable on the bottom. We got to do a little extra work here, but let's put it over 1. So y is going to be multiplied times the sine of 25, not times the 1. So we put that y first, sine of 25 equals the other cross product, which is 10. 1 times 10 is 10. To undo this multiplication, we get rid of that sine of 25. We divide by the sine of 25 degrees. That cancels that out and goes away. We're ready to put this in the calculator. So remember, this is not 10 sine of 20, it's 10 divided by the sine of 25 degrees, which rounds to approximately 23.6. So there's our equation, there's our y. That is the end of this lesson. If you need any extra help, of course, you can always rewind, pause if you missed any of the notes. But now you will work on the practice problems. Good luck with those, and let me know if you need a little help. Use your notes when you need to. Shouldn't be too bad. Good luck.